guys, and welcome to another exciting episode of The Intentional Investor. Today, we are kicking off our December planning series. You guys, if there is one series that you guys want to pay attention to, it's this one because we dig into clarity. Are you clear on your goals? Are you clear on your purpose? Is what's going through your mind actually happening in your life? Keston and Oscar are going to unpack it right here. So let's get started. Kes, Oscar, what's up?
Melissa, how you doing? How you doing? Oscar, what's up, bro?
We are good. We're good.
Man,
Life is
this session right here, I know has the ability to change anyone that's listening to this lives. It changed my life. It absolutely changed my life. I remember like facilitating this in our mentorship, in the sub 2 mentorship. And I'm telling you, this thing is super powerful. This conversation with clarity, being clear. So I'm really excited to jump into this. Really excited.
I need to ask you a question. Why was it so powerful for everyone in that room?
So we're investors, right? We all want to make money. We're doing this to make a return, but we're not really clear as to why we're doing it. And so there's so many different ways of investing using real estate, right? You have lease option, you have creative finance stuff, you have fix and flip, you have sober livings. Like there's a million different ways that you can do multiple different real estate strategies and investing. But if you don't have clarity as to why you're doing it and what you're going to do, what ends up happening is when we see people posting these assignment checks, when they get like $100,000 on a flip or something like that, you tend to want to run to go do the same thing that they're doing. But they are walking in their purpose, doing what they need to do. And so if you're not clear, you won't be able to just be happy for someone. Instead, you would go run it down trying to do the same thing that they're doing. And so this session should allow you to be clear so that when you see somebody doing something, you could be happy for them and know like, that's not my path. This is my path. And so that's why that session was so powerful.
100%. Oh my gosh. Oscar, were you a part of that session or do you have anything to share?
No, I was not part of the session, but I mean, I 100% agree because this is where you see, hey, I'm in multifamily. I just made $1 million, and but that's not my path. I'm a single family guy, for example. Like people always ask me, Oscar, why don't you do syndication? Oscar, why don't you take down that multifamily? Oscar, why are you not there? Why are you here? But I stayed my lane, just like what Keston does, and I stay laser focused. And so if you get that clarity, and Keston is 100,000% better than clarity than me, to be honest. I'm still all over, but I know when I started, I have this clarity that I know I'm just going to do single family, and I continue that year after year after year, and I'll be able to see it. Keston just clarified for me. Talking with Keston just clarified for me, just kind of put that perspectives like, yeah, that's what I did, right? But it makes sense, otherwise you'll just be jumping around, and I see that every day. I see my old partner, and we're meeting, and we're like, well, what happened to your rentals? Like, well, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm doing self-storage now. It's like, what? And how many self-storage have you done? Well, none. Okay, so you've had rentals, you gave that away, you sold that, and now you're doing self-storage. And how many? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, so.
And Oscar, the reason for that is because he probably listened to a podcast and heard somebody being super successful, and something like that triggered to him, like, oh, I could do that. He'd made $2 million in 1 year. Oh my God, let me jump to that. But it doesn't align with his purpose and clarity. He doesn't have clarity. And another thing is, right now, we're getting ready for the end of the year. What tends to happen is now everyone want to come up with a 90-day plan. Let's come up with a 90-day plan as to what we're going to do. What are you planning? you don't even know where you're going.
Yeah.
That's like listening to your GPS without having direction, without having the address as to where you're going. So
Imagine
we
that, right?
need to get clear. It's the first step. It's the absolute first step.
Yeah.
So now
I
let's
totally
make sure
agree.
everyone hears this loud and clear. So it's okay to pivot or to adjust. Like let's say market conditions change, but your purpose and your why should not change. Correct?
This is a deep, very deep conversation. I think you could grow with your purpose because I think purpose is a journey, right? And so while you're currently doing something that is purposeful and you feel like is your purpose, I do think God could allow you to get to another level. Not saying that one day you're a doctor and the next day you're a janitor, right? Like not extreme, but
Yeah.
let's say you move up within your purpose to doing things on a higher level and touching a different set of people. And so I do believe purpose is a journey. And until you start taking action within your purpose, within doing the things that God has placed on your heart or God has embedded in you to do, then you would never know where the end of your purpose really lies. And I hope that makes sense because it's just so it's such a deep thought
Mhm.
as to what my purpose is today versus what it could end up being when I'm 60. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
We all have different seasons in our life, right, that we're going
Exactly.
through, and so we need to
Yeah.
flex to that. So, well, I can't wait to get into it. So here's how this thing's gonna roll. So Keston, you have some questions for Oscar and I, correct? And so you're gonna roll those out. Now, so the audience knows, we are going to put these questions in the show notes. So do not pull over. Don't need to, write them down unless you are sitting down. You can write these down with us and do that at the same time. But I'm going to hand it off to you because you're going to go ahead and preface a few of these, correct?
Yes, I would. Yes, I would. And guys, here's the thing about these questions that I was given while I was doing my high performance coaching program. These questions are going to sound so arbitrary. It's going to sound like it's not a big deal. Like I could have came up with that question on my own. But the power is in actually answering the question because they're very thought provoking. And when you got to write these things down or even think about it, that's where the challenge of, oh crap, I actually don't know how to answer this question. And so if you guys are ready, I'm ready. I'm ready to get into the first question.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Can't
Awesome.
wait.
So the first question is, what do you feel most certain about and clear about in your life right now? What do you feel most certain and clear about in your life right now? And so typically you would have a few minutes to write this down. And if you want to pause this, the podcast right here and write it down and then unpause so that we could talk through it, that would be awesome. And so, Melissa and Oscar, do any one of you want to talk through that question and even try to answer it?
Oscar, you go.
Okay. So the question, and I'm going to repeat the question again. I'm looking at my notes here. Do you feel clear about who am I? Do I feel clear about who am I and what's important in my life right now?
So let me just repeat it one more time. What do you feel most certain and clear about in your life right now?
Okay. 90% yes. Right? If you just not write it down and think it through,
Mm-hmm.
yes, at this point in my life, I know what I'm put here on the earth for. I mean, this is a two-prong for me, right? Because a faith base, I know why God put me on this earth. right? And it is to further his mission and his gospel, right? And I'm not being a preacher, but it just becomes clear and clear to me that my goal is to just use my God-given talent through the marketplace, through what I'm doing right now, so that God's name can be glorified through me. That's really what I'm trying to do in all the things that I do. I used to be, and sounds funny, I used to be very, very afraid of saying God bless you
Mm,
in every single conversation. But now, every time I speak with someone, I would not be afraid to say God bless you. And in any business, that I would say, I have my faith, and this is how I do business. And if you don't like it, then maybe we're not the right fit. But God bless you anyway, right? So I'm clear in the sense that my faith is what guides me in all different situation, in all different business partnership.
mhm,
The three of us right now, it's based on the foundation that I believe the three of us has. And I know in the future, when I do my business, my other business partners and everything has to have foundational faith as me. That's 100% what I need to have. That's the faith answer.
yeah,
N- you know
yeah.
so
No, that's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. And
Mhm.
yeah, I wouldn't even expound on that, Melissa. Um,
I know. You're going to want to give us feedback. So, what do I feel most certain about in my life right now? The first thing that comes to my mind is like my gifts and abilities as a parent. It's like the one thing I don't doubt. Like
Mm.
what to do when things hit the fan or when things go wrong or how to lead my home for sure. Just being transparent. So that and I think as being married, like you're always navigating, right? That road, you
mhm,
have to constantly work on your marriage. And a lot of times when you have other things going on, like that's got to be super intentional. So that's another thing too. That Ben and I are
mhm,
both, we're in a good place, but it's constant. As far as real estate investing, where we've gone from a year ago to today, like I'm a little bit blown away by. Like we have 5 properties now. I had 0 a year ago. So I think my abilities to be able to actually do something with it once I put my nose down and start grinding gives me some confidence that maybe I didn't have before. Um, the question I asked myself and in a private conversation that we all had the other day is, do you believe in yourself? Do you believe in God? Like, are you doubting God's ability to give this to you? And that's something that I wrestle with. Like, I don't doubt God and his power because he's always been so good to us. Even in the hard times, I can still see the light in that valley as to why we've gone in those places. And it's always turned out to be a blessing in the end because of how we look at the situation and what we do with that fruit, right? Um, which I think real estate investing the last couple months has been hard to be transparent, but I think it's just preparing us for something in the future, hopefully next year.
so good. So,
Mm.
so, so good. Man, wonderful answers. And you guys having that clarity as to where you are and what you're confident about right now is amazing. And so that's great. So the second question, let's move on to the second question. What are the areas of your life that you feel uncertain or directionless? What are the
Mm.
areas of your life that you feel uncertain or directionless? It's a little deep.
Yeah.
You gotta dig into it a little bit. What are those areas of your life that you feel uncertain or directionless? Again, if you're listening to this on podcasts or YouTube, pause it right here and write these answers down because it could reveal a lot. Um, so, do we want to start with you again, Oscar?
Yeah, I hate that question. I hate that question because,
Yeah.
like, it makes me feel dumb. Like, just to be honest, right? Because I'm always the guy that people rely on me and people know me as the guy who always has the answer. But I don't know everything, right? And when I don't know, I keep quiet, or I find my own way first, but I don't tell people what I don't know. You know what I mean? Because I'm always the guy with the answers, right? So Um, but if I can say, what I feel uncertain and directionless is, how am I going to leave my wealth?
Mm,
I don't have a clear answer on that. Like, I know what it is right now, and I feel like I will leave it to my family, because we always talk about generation wealth and everything, but I just feel there's something bigger.
mhm.
I just feel that, and this is part of the clarity in the first question, because I know God wants to use me as a vessel for something, but I don't know where, I don't know where that's gonna go. Like,
Yeah.
where's my wealth gonna go? And that include my properties, they include my other assets and everything. Like, do I give it to a nonprofit? Do I create a nonprofit? Do
Mhm.
I, what am I don't have clear answer for that.
Yeah. And I want to ask you a question, just because I think it's such a great topic that I don't believe is talked about enough. So you said you want to leave generational wealth. Like it's a very common thing
Yeah.
that people want to do and they strive to do. And like your answer said, and I'm not sure how to do it. Now, do you believe generational wealth is assets or education and knowledge? What do you believe generational wealth actually is?
So, the obvious answer is definitely assets first, but also it should transcend into mindsets that you leave behind to your family, like my children, right? I mean, if we talk about my daughter Audrey, that's what I want to leave her with. It's and this is the question. Like, I don't want to leave her with just wealth. I don't want to leave her with money. I want to leave her with knowledge, and not just worldly knowledge, but that mindset that says, you can't be conformed to this world and to what other people are doing.
Yeah. And here's the reason for that question, if you guys don't mind. Because if we leave assets, physical assets, without teaching them how to fish, how to do it, how to keep it, then it may last maybe a generation or two, but then it's going to go away.
Yeah.
Without that knowledge, without teaching them how to continue with, then it's not really generational wealth. You've just left it for the next generation.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the reason why sometimes when people have these thoughts, I like to bring clarity and challenge them a little bit, because what are we really trying to leave? And I think that could almost help answer the question that you were asking originally,
Hmm.
because it's twofold.
Hmm.
You could get the assets, but if you don't get the knowledge, then it wouldn't be generational. It would be for the
Yeah.
next generation.
It'll just stop.
It will stop.
Hmm.
Right? Very deep thoughts here, like extremely good stuff. So thank you for sharing that, bro.
Hmm. Yeah,
Melissa.
now I need a blueprint. I need an SOP for my family.
Yeah. I wanted to tell Oscar because my mind was going in a different direction. Like, if you need a guy, I've got a guy
Mm.
that could do an awesome job, like asset planning. And here's like $1 million tip. I just heard from one of my friends that's using him that if you pass down your wealth, not to the next generation, but to the next generation, you bypass a lot of taxes, like a ton.
Mm.
Did you
That's
guys know
so good.
that?
Yeah.
Well, it
I
makes sense. It makes so much sense because you keep kicking the can down the road. And so you just keep passing it on. So it
yeah.
makes a ton of sense.
You
Yeah.
establish a trust where anyone can get into it, and I know that this isn't the topic of today's conversation, but your next generation can still tap into it whenever they want.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You don't leave it for the following generation, so
Hmm.
$1 million tip. Okay, so what are the areas of your life that you feel most uncertain or directionless?
Yep.
Mine's like easy. Mine's like, where's my next deal coming from? Because it's all
Mm.
about consistency and timing. And it's like this one deal that we just took down in Indy. I just had an agent call say, "Hey, Melissa, do you buy like crappy houses?" I'm like, "Of course I do." And I think this is just like when God's divine timing just kind of comes to fruition. I tell Oscar the same thing, like, you don't know where your money is going, but staying tapped into God, like he's going to reveal that to you. And so that's the same answer that I have to tell myself is that I don't know, but he's been very faithful this last year. And so I have to believe that that's going to continue to happen if we're doing the right things. That's my guess.
That's so good. And I want to comment on that if you don't mind as well. Um, because here's what I believe. And again, I've heard this from my virtual pastor, Michael Todd, right? What he says is that faith, you only need faith for things you don't know. For example, when you fill up a car with gas, you don't have faith that this car has the ability to get you from point A to point B because it has gas. There's knowledge that makes you know, like, it's gonna work, right?
Mhm.
Like, it's going to work. Of course, there's the person that's like, well, you still need faith for God to protect you to get from point A to point B. Yes, I know that. That's not what we're talking about, right?
Mhm.
We're talking about the function of the car needing gas. Now, there are the moments when your gas light comes on and you don't know where the next gas station is, and you're all of a sudden praying, oh my God, please take me to the next gas station. And so now you're begging for faith because it's the unknown, right? And
Yeah.
so right now, you're saying that your unknown or that place for you is not knowing where you get deals, your next deal is coming from. However, there is systems that can be created to predict your next deal or to have a consistent flow of deals. And so now building out that system where it's predictable, and that's why you have like your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and all of these things. This is how businesses are created, with having these systems in place to be able to predict your next deal. And so
Mhm.
once that's implemented, then that uncertainty goes away, because now it's not a matter of, oh my, you praying to God of where your next deal is coming from. Right now, it seems like a faith. God blessed me with something, until, just like the car, it works
Yeah.
because he's shown you, like, I could get from point A to point B. And so now it's just implementing and figuring out that system that takes I don't want to say take the faith away, because it's never an absence of faith. Now it's you
Mhm.
taking action based on knowledge, because he wants you to gain knowledge and implementing it into your life, right? And so that could also help with the uncertainty that you mentioned as to going to the next level.
Yeah. And you
Yeah, I
guys
like
know
that.
this, like, yeah, that's great. Thank you. Um, we're all kind of reworking these things of how we're marketing and what we're doing. And so I think that's where the stress comes. Like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now we got to re-engineer this again and grind it out. So
Yep. But excellent answers, and no answer is right or wrong. This is just an introspect, so that the power of what we're doing now and gaining the clarity now gives us the answers as to what we need to work on for planning our 90 days. Do you guys see how this is connected to as to why we start here? Because it gives you the answers as to what you're going to work on. All
Mhm.
uh-huh.
right, so let's go to number 3. Number 3, what do you value most in your life right now? What do you value most in your life right now? I'm going to say it one more time. What do you value most in your life right now? Oscar, bro, what you got?
Time.
Mm,
I would do whatever I can to regain time and to be able to do the things that I want to do. So and up to like, and we discussed this before, I'd rather spend the money than lose the time,
All day.
because
Yeah.
I can, like, at this point, and not to sound braggy, it's like I know and I'm gonna get more money, but I'm not gonna get more time.
Mm.
So I'd be
So
willing to
deep.
spend the money so I can get that time freedom, especially with people surrounded me, right? People surrounding me. I want to be as much possible with people surrounding me, and I would be willing to pay for that, right? I would be willing to
Mhm.
pay for that.
Yeah.
So for me, it's time
Man,
at this point.
so deep, and I know that to be true for you. we
Hmm.
we literally had this conversation before hopping on the podcast, so I know what he's saying is true. And one of my mentors, he gives the example of when somebody's at their hospital bed, what do they ask for? What do they wish they had more of? Is it money? No, they wish they had more time. And so what do we typically say? Um, time is money. That's what we typically say, but that's not really true because of the example I just gave. Time is everything.
Yeah.
Time is everything. And so what you place value on your time, guys, is so important. And so um great point of view and perspective, Oscar. Melissa, what's your perspective?
So my takeaway from that is that if Oscar calls you, you better pick up. And you really like to, right? So, which I always do. So, gosh, what do I value the most? I just have to think family. Like I, for whatever
Mhm.
reason, am in a season where like God is kind of like pulling me back in. Like, spend this time with your family, be with your little ones. They're only little for so long. They only have one mama. And I don't want to take that for granted. So part of it does go to time as well, because I know I only have so much. So family number one. And I say that because there's a deal that's just really tight that we're dealing with right now. And I'm like, man, if this thing goes south and let's say we lose some money or we're, don't make anything, like I don't care. Like I have it so good. Like I'm so blessed looking around at my kids,
Yeah.
like running around, not with like without a care in the world. So that is what I value the most. But if I look at what I do when I'm like, in the shower or if I'm like driving, I'm always trying to calculate like where do I need to be? Like what's my number of freedom? Like I'm obsessed of trying to
Yeah.
calculate like what's the monthly cash flow? What's this property going to bring me? It's like some people see a house, they say, wow, $300,000 for that. I'm like, well, if I could Airbnb that or if we could break it down or house hack, who's an investor that I could partner with? Like I think about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
family, time, and then freedom. Like that's what I'm obsessed
Mm.
Hmm.
with.
So good. So good. Again, guys, if you're driving, if you're working out, take time to pause and answer these questions. Don't move forward if you don't answer these questions because they're super important. Writing in like your notepad or something. Okay.
Hey guys, it's Melissa here. Hey, this episode on clarity is so deep. We are dividing this into two sections. Why? Because we want you guys to absorb 100% of the golden nuggets that we're dropping here. So we're going to pause the show. We want you to go back, look at these questions, dig deep, and figure out what your real purpose is and why you're clear on doing what you're doing right now. So, with that being said, if you guys like this show and love what you're hearing, we do this for free. We do this because we want all of these little nuggets. Please subscribe on the link below. We would love that. We love you all, and we can't wait to see you for episode 2. Thanks, guys.